Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils got absolutely embarrassed over the weekend. How in the world do they bounce back? We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure that you're rating, reviewing, hitting that subscribe button to the YouTube. We're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And when you subscribe to Locked On Phillies, you'll get notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. I appreciate everyone who's doing that. If you need a little more info on me, I've been doing sports talk radio here in the city of Philadelphia for a little over 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year hosting Locked On Phillies. And in my 4 years of doing this, I have seen some bad series, but I don't really know if I've quite seen a game like the one that the Phillies played Saturday against the Brewers, where they lost 17-7. They lost 6-2 in the opener. They lost 5-2 yesterday. The Phillies got absolutely handled by the Milwaukee Brewers. It's actually going to be very hard for me to use names of what they had happened to them without saying bad words. Right? Because that's what it was. It was a kicking, right? You get it. They got smoked, and it was really, really embarrassing, especially yesterday. Saturday is kind of one of those games, right? Well, let's go through the series because we're recapping this. And I think the Phillies are going to bounce back. I think they've got an opportunity with Toronto. They'll play them tomorrow, day off today, which is sometimes you really, really need one of those. But game 1 of the series, 6-2. Yeah, you just didn't really create offense. Christian Yelich went yard twice. It just wasn't a great performance there. And that's going to happen. And that was Taijuan Walker who gave up 4. More on Taijuan Walker later because we're going to talk about some weekend roster changes, and we're going to also do an off-day standings check-in later too. But game 1, just kind of you didn't get your best start from Taijuan Walker. Offense was quiet, whatever. Game 2. Oh, you get absolutely smoked. Jesus Luzardo gives up maybe 1 billion runs, I think is the conservative estimate, 1 billion. And he looked terrible. He had his blow-up start, which comes just a couple days after Zach Wheeler has his blow-up start against the Atlanta Braves in Game 2 of the doubleheader on Thursday. And it's just it's a bad time through the rotation for Philadelphia Phillies pitchers. That's what I think this came down to. Wheeler got beat up on Thursday in Game 2 of the doubleheader. Walker got beat up on Friday. Luzardo got beat up on Saturday. And then yesterday you had Ranger actually throw well, and that's why yesterday's game bothers me the most. Because after Luzardo got smoked on Saturday, Ranger goes out there, he throws well. You get into a situation in the 7th where he comes out of the game. You're like, okay, well, let's find a way to make this happen. 2-1 lead. And then Weston Wilson completely misplays the ball in left field. Unacceptable. Cannot happen. Can't. No, the Phillies need to be good defensively and in order to go where they're going, especially in the outfield, because the infield, as we're going to talk about, can be sketchy at times. And they didn't get it done. And it's not just Weston Wilson. I mean, he deserves a lot of blame for what happened in the 7th inning. It was a bad misplay that cannot happen at the major league level, but Trey Turner's misplay was even worse than what Weston Wilson did. You got 2 outs. You have a runner on first, so you have a forced play at second base. It's a nice, easy play if they're to hit the ball and roll it over to shortstop, and that's exactly what they did. And if Trey Turner gets that ball, bang, flip, inning over, 1-run lead going into the bottom of the 7th. Chance to extend, chance to settle, chance to get a bullpen pitcher out there who's actually one of your more high leverage guys, whatever. But instead, Trey Turner completely boots it. Next batter doubles down the line, and the lead is gone, and the game is gone. And the Phillies didn't score again in that one after that because Well, they got their hearts ripped out by their shortstop making a terrible, terrible, terrible error. And Weston Wilson's is not going to be ruled an error because it was just a misplay, but that was an error as well. And this is part of the conversation that we had last week about the Phillies defense. Like, the Phillies defense as isn't Gold Glove caliber. Like, they had some nice plays in the series from guys like Bryson Stott or JT Realmuto, but this is just not a high level defensive team, which is why bringing in a player that doesn't fit defensively is just like, it doesn't make any sense. So you're not going to be able to do anything at shortstop, right? Trey Turner's your shortstop. You're just going to have to live with it unless they do the Stott Turner flip, which they haven't seemed like they want to do. I wouldn't be holding out hope for that. So Trey Turner's your shortstop. Center field, if you bring in somebody else who's a solid defender and a good righty bat, well, then Rojas and Marsh become defensive replacements. Weston Wilson goes down to the minors or is released outright. And your defense improves drastically. And once Bryce Harper's back at first, Alec Bohm goes to third, and your defense is better because of that, because Bohm is not a natural first baseman. So they're going to be okay defensively, right? They're going to be fine. But this was just one of those series where you got jumped in game one, you got pummeled in game two, and then you gave away game three. The Phillies found every possible way to lose a game in this 3-game series against the Brewers. And now they're dropping majorly in the standings. They're no longer in first place in the league, no longer in first place in the division. Like, they had a nightmare series, and it just reminds you how tight everything is at the top of the baseball standings as we head into the month of June. Now, Kyle Schwarber did have an RBI, even though it was on a check swing to shortstop yesterday. So maybe June Schwarber is enough to carry this team. Bryce Harper did not play. Not sure when he's going to be back. Hopefully in Toronto, as the Philadelphia Phillies get prepared to take their talents up to the 6 and play the Toronto Blue Jays in Canada. Harper is getting closer after his hit by pitch versus the Braves. Also, anyone who's like, oh, well, this series because Bryce Harper was hurt. No, it wasn't. Now, would he be nice to have? Absolutely. And they're going to get him back, and he's going to be fine. They're just being cautious with him. And he could have made an impact in the series, sure, but it doesn't make that much of a difference when the rest of your team, like, it wasn't like Alec Bohm made a major error at first base. Like, no, your shortstop mishandled the ball. Your offense didn't create enough opportunities. Your pitching had some of their worst starts individually of the year, and you move on, I guess. It sucks, but this is not who this team is. And that's why it's so embarrassing that they played that way against the Milwaukee Brewers, who frankly are not that good of a baseball team. They're solid. And like, Yelich had a nice series. Rhys Hoskins had a nice series, having multiple home runs in that 17-run performance. And I thought when they scored a bunch in the bottom of the ninth on Saturday, the Phillies, while they were getting rolled, that was momentum that they needed to come out and win the game on Sunday. I felt great about yesterday's game the entire way. And then in the 7th inning, everything just came crashing down out of nowhere because left fielder can't read a baseball and the shortstop can't field a baseball. That can't happen. Now, June is going to be a tough month. We're going to have to get used to this. There may be some scuffling. The Phillies have lost 4 straight, so they're scuffling right now. What you got to do is you got to have somebody in the rotation be a stopper. And tomorrow we're going to preview the Phillies Blue Jays series. Zach Wheeler goes game 1. So there's your stopper. He's got to go out there and he's got to get the job done. But this Brewers series is one that, you know what it reminds me a lot of? It reminds me a lot of that Cubs series post All-Star break. What year was that? Was that 2023? Where the Phillies came back from the All-Star break. They were rolling. They were red hot. They play the Cubs and immediately get swept 3 times. Or lose 3 times and get swept. And that's kind of what this felt like. It was just like, damn, there's no way you should get swept in that series. There's really no reason to lose that series. You're the better baseball team. You had some good arms throwing and just couldn't figure it out. But Luzardo's not going to give up like 11 every time he pitches. Taijuan Walker, well, it doesn't sound like he's starting anymore, which we'll tell you about that coming up next because that's a major development from over the weekend. Ranger Suarez was good. Trey Turner, as bad as he is defensively compared to the average major league shortstop, he's good enough that he's going to make those plays more often than he doesn't. Now, he should make them basically every single time, but that may be, he's not a great defender. That's it. He's not a great defender. Sorry, Trey. I don't know what to tell you. If you were, we'd know it. We'd see it. We have not seen it in your time here in Philadelphia. He has some good plays he can make, but it's a liability of his game. And the Phillies are going to wear that sometimes. And unfortunately, it just had to be coupled with another bad defensive play by Weston Wilson and cost the Philadelphia Phillies a chance at winning that game. But again, you wipe it, you move on to Toronto. The off day, you know what you do? Here's the Philadelphia Phillies prescription for both the players and the fans. Today, you wake up, you go to work, you do not think about baseball. Anyone wants to talk to you about baseball? Oh, did you see the Philly? Who? Never even heard of them. Do not think about baseball today, besides watching Locked On Phillies, of course. And just leave it for the day and come back and attack tomorrow fresh. That's the thing with the Philadelphia Phillies that you kind of have to do when you have a series this bad, this embarrassing. You can't really dwell on it because you're just going to get angrier. There's not much to draw from it because there was very little good that came along for the Philadelphia Phillies. You just swallow your pride. They cooked us this weekend. We live, we learn, we move on. And that's what the Philadelphia Phillies are going to do as they prepare to head up to Canada, which they'll be doing today, to take on the Toronto Blue Jays. We're not going to preview that just yet because that's coming up on tomorrow's episode. But I am going to talk to you about some roster changes that happened over the weekend that you're going to want to be aware of as the starting rotation may have started to get shaken up a little bit. We'll talk about it next as we continue today's episode. Let's talk wonderful pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, you could crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. And they have a bunch of different flavors and seasonings and styles and everything. I love the no-shells variety, personally. It's a perfect grab-and-go snack. I don't have to crack them open. You just, pour them into my mouth, and it's great. Resealable bag, awesome. But they also have the shells variety. They've got different seasonings and flavors. I like the sea salt and vinegar, but, hey, whatever you want, whether you're snacking at your desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always a good go-to. And if you love cracking open every shelf, like I said, you can use the regular version. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. So the Phillies made some roster moves over the weekend, and I did not expect this to happen, but people have been calling for some of this for a while now. So let me first tell you what the roster moves are, and then we'll react to what they mean. So Taijuan Walker, we always knew, was going to be going back to the bullpen. Now, part of the reason he's in the rotation has been Aaron Nola not being available with the injured list snip for the right sprained ankle. I have not heard much on Aaron Nola. I don't know what in the world's going on with the guy. We'll see when he makes his next start or what happens. He did a touch and feel session in the bullpen this past week. He threw a bullpen also. I don't know where he is, but I know where Taijuan Walker is, and he is heading to the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. Understandable, because Walker did not have a great start on Friday, and then you just go ahead and say, okay, well, we put ourselves behind the 8 ball in the series. He hasn't looked great. We need help in the bullpen because our bullpen is very thin. I haven't talked about the bullpen from this past series, but they were not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. And you kind of got to do that. So Taijuan Walker goes to the bullpen, and the Phillies recalled right-hander Seth Johnson. Now, Seth Johnson, if you're not familiar with Seth Johnson, hard-throwing righty reliever, guy that people really, really like, that was down in AAA having a lot of success with Iron Pigs, and he gets called up for bullpen help, and we'll see how much they actually use him. They also brought in, or will bring in, Mick Abel to pitch Thursday in Toronto. So Mick Abel's going to get another opportunity. Jose Ruiz was DFA'd to clear the spot for Seth Johnson. But very interesting that Abel is the guy that they call up. Now, Painter is a little bit ahead of his time frame, right? Because they were thinking mid-July for Andrew Painter. It is early June. So you don't exactly accelerate the timeline now. The Phillies are not in trouble with their starting pitching. They're just not. They just had a bad time through the rotation, which is going to happen to even the best teams. And they'll live with it. It'll be okay. But Mick Abel's an intriguing guy. They're bringing him back up. He does not have a long-term spot in the Philadelphia Phillies rotation. So let's break down what all of this basically is for the Phillies. So step one, translating this. They're tired of seeing Taijuan Walker start. They also need help in the bullpen. That is a win-win. That is your takeaway from the Taijuan Walker leaving the rotation to go to the bullpen. It's not just, hey, he's been great starting, but the bullpen needs him right now. It's he's been kind of rough starting, and the bullpen really needs him. So Taijuan Walker will go to the bullpen. He will get some of the middle leverage innings, I'd imagine. He's not going to be a back-end guy, but they do talk about, and Rob Thompson has brought this up a couple of times, Dave Dombrowski might have mentioned it too, how his stuff plays up. What that basically means is if you throw like 92, 93 as a starter, you should throw 94, 95 as a reliever because you have a shorter time frame to be out there, less amount of pitches to be thrown. So you just burn out. You just go, hey, let's throw as hard as we can. Let's add a little velo to it. I don't have to save anything, leave anything left in the tank. That happened with his stuff when he first went to the bullpen this year. So he could be a valuable bullpen piece. We will see. I'm not going to write off Taijuan Walker the way I would have at the start of the season if he had been in the bullpen. I'm going to give him a chance, and everybody should as well. He's earned that right with the way he's thrown this year, but he has not earned the right to be in the starting rotation anymore. Mick Abel has earned the right to see another opportunity because remember, he had 9 strikeouts and 6 scoreless innings, outdueled Paul Skeens. Like, he was a monster in his debut. So let's move on to the Mick Abel part of the equation, which I think is the second most interesting thing. I don't know if he's a future bullpen arm. But if he's not, then he is a future other team player because he's not going to be on the Phillies much longer. If he can't move to the bullpen, Mick Abel is not going to just hang out in the rotation because by that time, Painter will be up. And if that spot in the rotation is open, then Painter will have it. And if it's not, it will be because Aaron Nola came back and got the job done there, right? You got to understand. Wheeler's not going anywhere. Suarez is not going anywhere. And yes, I'm telling you, Suarez is not going anywhere. Sanchez not going anywhere. Luzardo not going anywhere. Those guys are going to be in the Philadelphia Phillies rotation. So that leaves one spot. Is it Nola? Most likely. Even though he struggled heavily this year, that's most likely Nola's spot. Right now, it's Mick Abel. In July, it could be Andrew Painter. I don't know when Nola's going to come back. We haven't really gotten a time frame on that quite just yet. But Mick Abel, if he goes up here and throws really, really well, the Phillies then can move him for a bullpen arm because you don't need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starters and Taijuan Walker in the pen as a swing guy. 8 potential starters going into a postseason series, especially when your bullpen is in such rough shape. Thanks to Jose Alvarado, or no thanks to Jose Alvarado, I should say. But that's the situation the Phillies find themselves in. So should be rooting for Mick Abel to have another strong performance, as we always are when somebody on the Phillies steps on the mound, rooting for all the guys. But Abel, if he could follow it up on the road in Toronto, that'd be great. Now, a reminder, his first game was against the Pittsburgh Pirates. His first game was also at home. So that'll be a tough task for him when he throws Thursday in Toronto. We'll talk heavily about that game when we do get there to the series finale against the Blue Jays. The Seth Johnson thing is also intriguing because he's just a name that people he's one of those go-to names that people love to tweet out about, hey, this guy's in the minor leagues. He throws hard. Put him in the bullpen. Put him in the bullpen. Put him in the bullpen. And I'm like, okay. How many of you actually watch Seth Johnson pitch? Some of you may if you're out in the Lehigh Valley area. And we've seen him pitch a couple of times. He's a good pitcher. I'm not saying he's going to stink. I think he's going to be good for the bullpen to have. And it can't hurt to just rotate the piece. Jose Ruiz was a non-factor. He's been incredibly disappointing this year. He was DFA'd for a reason. He's just hasn't been good. Flat out, plain and simple, has not been good enough. After a season last year where he looked like a balancing force in the middle of the Phillies bullpen, Jose Ruiz has flat out stunk. So you bring in Seth Johnson. You try something different. Give the kid an opportunity. If he's good, great. If he's not, well, we'll figure it out from there. But remember, Seth Johnson acquired from Baltimore in one of those trades. I forget if it was Greg Soto or if it was Sir Anthony Dominguez, but he came over from Baltimore this past trade deadline in order to give us. It was deadline that they made those moves. Yeah, I believe so. In order to get some more minor league arms to make up for Soto and Dominguez bouncing for the Baltimore bullpen. Both of those guys are starting to have rough years. The Orioles have been having rough years. So maybe if Seth Johnson looks good, we can look back at that and say, hey, Phillies won a trade with Baltimore. I don't know what Seth Johnson really is, but I know that the current bullpen structure is not working. So reinforcements are here. Walker, Johnson. Then you still have Strom, Kerkering, Romano. That's 5 guys that either you can trust or you're not quite sure yet. And 3 guys that you're like, no, I cannot trust in Joe Ross and Carlos Hernandez and Tanner Banks. Right? All due respect to Tanner Banks because he's been doing his job this year. His job is just he's got very minimal requirements. I don't want to act like I'm killing the guy. I just don't think he's that good of a bullpen pitcher compared to what the Phillies need. In high leverage spots, he can eat up innings. That's totally fine. I don't want to crush the guy. But Seth Johnson adds to that pen. Gives you another potentially high leverage righty, I guess. We'll see what he throws like. And I'm stoked for Mick Abel. So maybe this flip-flop of the bullpen will settle things. And this flip-flop in the rotation will settle things, even though I do think more of that is Walker goes to the bullpen to help the bullpen. You have to fill that spot somehow, and you're using Abel as a trade chip. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, we just know that the Phillies have changed things up a little, and they needed to because this series against the Blue Jays was an absolute mess. Coming up next, excuse me, we're going to talk a little bit of, unfortunately, standings talk because it's an off day for the Fighting Phils. And, yeah, they dropped significantly from dropping 3 to the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll take a peek at the standings in general and how far the Phillies have fallen as we wrap up today's episode. All right, so the Phillies had the best record in baseball late last week. They now have the 6th best record in baseball. Now they're only 2.5 games back on the Detroit Tigers, who are 39-21. The Phillies are 36-23. The Dodgers are 36-23. The Yankees are 36-22, a half game up on LA and Philly. The Cubs are 37-22. The Mets are 37-22, and then the aforementioned Tigers. And that seems to be the higher tiers. Detroit, Mets, Yankees, Chicago Cubs, Los Angeles Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies. Maybe you could throw the San Diego Padres in there, even though they're 2 games back of the Dodgers and the Phillies. So there's going to be a lot of flip-flopping in the standings over the month of June with those top 6 teams. Hopefully, the Phillies make their climb back up, but going from the best record in baseball to the 6th best record in baseball is a problem. And the run differential took a major, major hit in this series against the Milwaukee Brewers, especially that 17-7 game. That will do that. The Phillies' run differential is down to plus 22. It's crazy. They've got a 610 winning percentage. They've only scored 22 runs more than they've given up. The Yankees are plus 98. The Cubs are plus 97. Tigers plus 86. You go all the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th best run differential in baseball, which is frankly not good enough for the Philadelphia Phillies. They need to be beating opponents, and they need to be beating them by more. I mean, a win is a win. And right now, after losing 4 straight, including the finale against the Atlanta Braves, you'll take a win in Game 1 in Toronto tomorrow night any way you could get it. But I want to see the Phillies start to run up the score. We saw like multiple 20-plus run baseball games over this weekend. The Phillies were involved in one. The only problem is they gave up 17. So they got to figure that out. Now, in the National League, they're 4 games back. They're not 4 games back. They're 4th place, 1 game back behind only the Mets, Cubs, and Dodgers. So the Phils are still fine in the National League. And the division, it's back to the Mets by 1 game. And the Mets have a very easy June schedule. The Phillies, not so much. So nobody else is really in the race in the division. The Braves are 9.5 back. The Marlins are 13 back. The Nationals are 9 back. The Phillies and Mets are going to duke it out for the NL East. The main differences here, the Mets are 24-7 at home. They're nearly unbeatable at Citi Field. Under 500 away. Better run differential. And even though they've scored less runs, they've given up significantly less runs. The Mets have only given up 193 runs this year. The Phillies have given up 259. Yeah, so about 66 more runs than the Mets have given up. And the Phillies starting rotation is better than the Mets starting rotation. Like, it is. You just look at the quality of pitcher. You should be able to handle that. But the bullpen was really, really rough. And you've had some blow-up starts, which was part of the reason that you made the changes that you did over the weekend, bringing up Seth Johnson, sending down Jose Ruiz, Taijuan Walker to the bullpen, Mick Abel to the starting rotation. So we'll see if that pays off. Now we're just going to take a peek up at Toronto because you play them tomorrow. They're second place in the AL East at 31-28, 525 win percentage. Now, interestingly enough, they do have a -5 run differential, even though they're 3 games above 500. So they're not really blowing out teams either. They've won 5 straight. The Phillies have lost 4 straight. So maybe this will be an opportunity for those streaks to reverse as the Phillies get ready to head up to Toronto. We're going to do a full preview of that series on tomorrow's episode and taking a look at everything that the Phillies need to do, the pride that they need to retain by going to work up there in Toronto. But I don't know. The Phillies didn't really lose ground in the division. They were in first. They dropped to second, but it's not like they're in a major, major bad hole. That's going to happen when teams are tight at the top where you're going to flip-flop in standings. It looks worse because there's that bunch of teams up top that had good weekends in the Mets and the Dodgers and Cubs and Yankees. I know the Dodgers and Yankees played each other, but both of them kind of played to no blood, even though the first game was a major, major blowout at the hands of the Dodgers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to overreact to one series. The other team's getting hot near the top of the standings while the Phillies are getting cold is a little concerning. The Phils have the biggest losing streak in all of baseball. No, sorry. Well, in all of real baseball. If you don't count the Athletics or the Rockies, then yes. But the Athletics have a 6-game losing streak. The Rockies have an 8-game losing streak. The Phils have the 3rd worst streak currently going in all of baseball, and they're going to play a team with the 2nd best streak going on starting against Toronto. The Brewers have won 7 straight. We saw the last 3 of those. The Blue Jays have won 5 straight, as we were just talking about. So the standings, get used to them flip-flopping. June is going to be tough for the Phillies. The NL East, well, the Mets have an easy June, right? So the Mets are going to go through some easy stretches where they play the Rockies a bunch and the Pirates and the Marlins and the Nationals. The Phillies are playing some tougher competition. And that means that this could be a month where you see them, I don't know, drop to 3 or 4 games back in the division at some point. They shouldn't. They should be able to handle stronger competition. But this was the same reason I made the claim that I did a couple weeks ago, how the Phillies were going to jump the Mets for first place in the division. I did that on Friday, talking about the Phillies in the division this month of June, that they're going to be out of first place and then bounce back, and there will be a back and forth kind of fight for first place in June as we head into July. But also remember where we're at. You got to think about it, because June is kind of that part of, if you call baseball a marathon, where you're like, okay, I think I'm getting near the end. I'm going to start really striding it out and burn my tank empty. But if you burn it out in June, you forget, okay, well, we still got to play all of July. And we still got to play all of August. And we've still got to play all of September. And then, only then do you get to the postseason, where hopefully you get the opportunity to play all the way through October. So as much as June sounds like the midway point of the baseball season, it is not. So don't overly jump the gun on what the Philadelphia Phillies have or have not been able to do, or will not be able to do in June. If they can hang on to a close to or top spot in the division, we're happy. But they're not going to do it the way they played this weekend. Got to bounce back, have better defense, better starts outside of you, Ranger. Ranger was great. And hopefully the new bullpen structure will yield dividends up in Toronto against a team that hasn't really been winning consistently, but is on a 5-game win streak right now. So we'll see. We'll preview that season or that series coming up on tomorrow's episode against the Blue Jays. But I'm going to choose to forget this Milwaukee Brewers series. I don't know about y'all, but I probably won't reference it anymore just because there's nothing positive to take out of this at all. And we're just gonna flush it and move on, as they say. But thank you, even though it was a tough weekend, for still joining us on Locked On Phillies today. I appreciate that very much. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you doing that. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.